Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Popcorn Watchlist podcast, where we discuss and celebrate our favorites in TV and film. I'm your host, Xavier, and once again, I'm here with the Popcorn Watchlist panel. First on the roll call is going to be Anthony.
Hola.
You've got Danny.
What's up?
And you have Zach.
Howdy.
Howdy. So here in the Popcorn Watchlist, we don't necessarily consider ourselves movie snobs. Like, we really, if you've been listening to us from the beginning, we just kind of get around either a round table like we're on right now, sometimes on the Fancy Pants studio, but we get around, we basically sit around and talk about what we like about movies. We'll recommend some stuff that maybe some of us have seen, some haven't, and on occasion that does tend to get us towards foreign films. So this time around, Danny actually came up with a really cool recommendation for our Popcorn Watch List series that we've been going on for weekly recommendations. So this time, Danny, do you want to tell us a little bit about the movie you have recommended?
Yeah, so I recommended The Invisible Guest, which came out in 2016. It did come out in Spain, so it is
under the title of Contratiempo, might I add. I just wanted to say Contratiempo.
It doesn't even match the title in English, but it's okay. We'll allow it.
Which means against time.
Which, if you watch the movie, it now makes sense to me.
Or
it does.
Setback. That's another translation.
Yeah.
Then that kind of makes sense.
Also sense too. Yeah.
But this movie is in Spanish, so you would have to use subtitles unless you know Spanish.
Which is what I did. I just used subtitles.
Yeah.
Good for you, Zach.
I mean, I think it has like a couple lines in English.
They're like throwaway lines by some random side character, like once or twice.
I think the only
we
one
will close the deal or something. I was like, okay.
Well, the only one I heard was that one scene where he's on that video call with like the
Chinese guy.
Yeah, the Chinese guy.
Yeah.
And like, there's a voiceover where you hear very
business
vaguely. He says something like a few words in English, and that was just like very faint though.
Yeah.
Other than that, the whole movie was pretty much Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to? I mean, I'd love to set up the movie. Like, and we will go into some probably major spoilers.
Yeah.
So be warned. This is going to be an episode that we honestly, I'll just give it full disclosure, is that watching the movie going in cold, I appreciated it because it was one of these really cool like mystery thrillers where you're trying to guess what's going on, and then you start seeing that there's more to things going on happening. One person's telling a story, one person's saying the story is bad because of circumstances, and then it gets to the point where there's a reason
throw away that story,
that the story needs to be thrown away, and then you get the real truth. They always say that the best lies are the ones closest to the truth.
Unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator, indeed. So basically, do you want to give the quick synopsis of what's going on with the main character, Adrian Doria?
Huh? Well, before I do that, what was the movie that it reminded you of?
So I don't know why, but I got like vibes of Primal Fear. It's very vague. Like I don't like it's not a direct connection. Like that was a movie that really put Edward Norton on the map, and with Richard Gere. And it's again about a lawyer trying to figure out like the whole story to something, because this person that Edward Norton played is accused of killing a priest that like supposedly had molested him, and so it's a whole thing about like it brings up the idea and the concept in a really good manner of unreliable narrator. So I was getting a lot of these vibes, and then I was trying to figuring out what's the underlying this, what's happening here, because like in the end the whole set of like this guy trying to cover up the misdeed that they did, that he and his side piece, that sounds mean, sorry, but he and his it sort of was, but more like his mistress, having an affair, because this main guy Adrian is having an affair with a woman named Laura. They're both having like affairs with between their separate relationships, and they're hiding important details from their significant others and their spouses. So they run into in a situation where like there's a car crash, and by testifying to the car crash, they would have put themselves out and said, hey, like we actually weren't where we were. We're out here having an affair. Yeah. But a little bit of I Know What You Did Last Summer vibes, but a little more serious. And we get a whole idea where this main character, Adrian, he is basically on the hook in court because he's been framed for the murder of his lover. And
which it kind of starts off that way. Like it starts with like him waking up in that hotel room, and seeing that she's dead. But then the movie goes on where you get the lawyer that comes in and you kind of get a backstory of what's going on.
Yeah, and this woman, Virginia Goodman. She is a lawyer in the sense of like, we're going to help you prep you for testimony to make sure that the story lines up straight. It's corroborating the evidence that your main big shot lawyer has been getting his hands done. And like, the only thing I will say initially about the movie is like, it didn't like, I don't think it really cemented the fact just how well entrenched and like, an important Adrian is as a character. Like they just mentioned like, oh, like he's startup of some company and he's trying to do a deal with Asia. I was like, okay, but like, are you get away with murder rich? Are you trying to do this stuff? And so
like he was definitely like
he was definitely greasing wheels. Yeah. Like there were a lot of his like main attorney, Felix Leiva. Like that was definitely the wheel greaser. Like he was out here with WD-40 and a whole bunch of euros, like making stuff happen.
Yo, he had that briefcase loaded.
Briefcase was out there and ready to go.
Multiple briefcases.
Duffel bags.
But like it made you like at first it didn't really cement the idea of just like at first I'm just like, why don't they just confess that they had an affair? What's the worst that could happen? Like what? Like,
everything else that happened?
Yeah, like compared to literally everything else that happens in the movie. It's like, oh, what happens? You end up getting a divorce, but you still close out your deal, and then you just have to now pay child support until that kid's 18. And I don't know, Spain. I just like deal with it. But no, they had to go and that they say about complicate things. But as we find out, there's a lot of layers to it, and ego gets in the way.
But then, like for the first half of the movie, you're led to believe this one story of it.
Yeah.
And later on, you get this other side, and you're like, oh, damn.
I loved what I really like, and I love about this movie that's pretty smart, is that there are quite a little bit of clues that are thrown out, even in the beginning of the movie. Like, so this is where we go into major spoilers. The whole point of the beginning of the movie is that Adrian is framing and saying that like there is an invisible guest, hence the English name for the title, in the hotel room that stayed there the whole time, that was all set up by the parents of the kid or the young adult that died in the car crash. That they like, I don't know, it doesn't really tell if they hit him or not, but it was more like they swerved out of the way of the deer.
The deer, and then they just
that kid ran into a tree.
They scraped each other.
Yeah, and then that kid ran into a tree, and it could have just been like chalk up an accident. Anyway, they're saying that like the mistress Laura, she decided the whole, hey, we have to cover this up. We can't let them find out everything. And as you go on and on, you see like that the whole story from the press, that whole supposition from the beginning is like flawed. And she's like, really? Like she's the one that doesn't seem like she has that much to lose compared to you. And
compared to him, yeah.
Yeah. And so then we find out that
they flipped
it's flipped, and the whole thing is because the Laura had so much guilt on her because she ended up getting picked up by an older, like a middle-aged gentleman. Takes him, I'm good with cars. I'll take you to my house. I'll help you out. It's okay. And then he starts seeing that things don't add up, like what the stuff in the middle of the seat, the fact that she had to adjust the seat beforehand, that they had the cell phone there,
the lighter also,
the lighter. Dude was smart.
The phone was in the couch.
The phone was in the couch. It's like, what?
The son always takes his phone.
Yeah.
I like when it's ringing.
He called his son.
I remember this whole time I was like, girl, why did you
put on vibrate?
Vibrate.
Yeah,
turn off the. She didn't know how to do it. It was an Android. No, I'm kidding. She could have just broken that phone. They're like, break this phone, burn it.
She put it in the couch while it was ringing, and
while she was there.
Yeah.
He's like, did you hear a phone ring?
No.
She's like, no. I would have been
right next to you.
I would have been like, I think so. Maybe it's in the couch. Like, that would have been like perfect. Like, just throw away off to the side. But
it's those little clues that start to like.
Yeah, and I loved the like, and everything tying into the whole like, oh yeah, like I met my wife in the theater. In theater play. She was really good at it. I just wanted to hook up with chicks. Turns out I was right. So that was a fun little side bit. Like, the characters definitely felt human. Like, they felt real. But then, like, you start seeing, like, Adrian start to unravel as more things go by, and as this lawyer, Virginia Goodman's trying to like
Get
pressing.
all
It's like,
the
oh,
data.
this is all simulation because they're gonna get you in the prosecution stand. They're
Extrapolate
gonna
all
do
the
this.
facts.
Yeah, get all the facts. We need the real truth so that when they try to hit you with this stuff, it's certain normal standard legal tactics that they try to work through. But you start noticing that she's picking a little bit too much on here. Like she's really getting on there. Like there's a lot happening there.
Did you guys ever think that the Goodman was the mom at all?
No, but I knew that she was working with the dad. Like immediately,
okay.
I was like, for sure she's working with the dad. Like all this going on, and she's like, oh, like deflecting when the other lawyer would come through. I was like, oh, like she's working with this guy, especially when she
kept looking out.
She looked out the window. I'm just like, lady, is he over in the window? And then the look is she goes, and then she played it to her advantage. She's like, she's over in the window. Look at that guy over there. So he's tailing you. Like he's doing all this stuff to try to get you.
Like,
so you got
that's when
you got to flip it. So she pressed him pretty smart.
From the beginning, I thought that the whole conversation was being recorded. I just didn't know it was like through the pen.
For that,
I thought it was like
I also knew the whole room was something was bugged.
Yeah,
something was
that
bugged.
I got from the first time watching.
So I don't know EU laws of whether or not that is admissible in their courts because that's not actually like sanctioned by the authorities. Because remember, they're all like, "Oh,
him without his consent."
Yeah, we don't trust the cops anymore." And they're like, "Yeah, we don't trust the cops because all that stuff happened, so we took all the matters in our own hands." But it was a really cool thriller, like seeing things kind of play out and how both.
I mean, they had the location.
Adriana and Laura had to like really play around with that kind of stuff, and it being the whole like, and then understanding, no, it's actually flipped around.
The photoshopped picture from that newspaper
with the mirror.
That part I was just like, okay, so then that's a fact, but what is that doing? Just there to like rattle him? Like that's one part. I was just like, was that he had it all along?
Like I guess
just to make it seem like look, this lady was there. So she's definitely in on the plan that you're saying is.
So that's probably what the lawyer Felix like had set up, or like he had tried to set up.
Plan.
And like the whole idea is like at first she had set up the son that he was embezzling money from the bank when it was actually him because obviously he has the connections to it. And he's trying to like go through it. And like I love how like Virginia, who's actually the mom, she's like, the story's stupid. Like this is dumb. Like she's almost like insulted that like this is how you're gonna try to pivot away from the fact that you guys got my son killed.
And
like,
even the whole like the Laura took his wallet before they put him in the trunk. It's like they never really even showed that. Like she wasn't really fumbling around like the kid. They kind of just carried him away and put him in the trunk.
Yeah.
So it was just like they didn't really show her doing that. So I wouldn't assume that she got his wallet.
She just said that.
I think it was meant to be like off camera.
I know,
but then you start realizing, oh wait, we have a case of unreliable narrator.
Yeah, and then he took it out.
And he's like, no, actually, I did it because he was alive.
That twist, he was alive.
I had a feeling. I was like, what if he's actually again? Like I know
the first time they showed it, I thought I was like, you're gonna hear some knocking because he's not dead. And then they didn't show it. He pushed in the wall.
But it was it was strange because like the whole idea of he looked just like. The way it was done, like it wasn't like his eyes were closed. It would have made more sense if like his eyes were closed, then they could have been like, oh wait, he's still because then you have idea like, oh yeah, he was totally dead. But now again, unreliable narrator, like were his eyes really closed, open the whole time, or were they closed?
It was just like knocked out.
Yeah, that's interesting. But there were some nice little like touches to what was going on, especially like a psychological thriller. The hotel that they stayed at very much looked like the Overlook Hotel from The Shining.
Gave those vibes.
It really did. And they're like
with the lift. You have to get
to the lift to get there. It's snowing. The whole concept of the fact that like there's keys that like you're stuck in there, and that so like he tried to make the story. Yeah, they locked the windows because of the winter, and I like the story of like they might have slipped him the key, and he had to. So the whole point where like they're talking about like he snuck in the room, knocked me out, killed her, and then snuck out through the window. Yeah. And then the wife came in and locked the door. I was like, there's no way that man.
Such an extravagant.
I was like, there's no way this man in his like late 50s, maybe early 60s, is out here climbing that.
Yeah.
And like stealing.
I was watching.
I was like,
there had to be an easier way to do this.
No, that's why I was like casting doubt the whole time. I was like, there's no way, that's not real. Like this is bogus. Like this guy's spewing this. That's the point where it's like, okay. This is where like it's unraveling.
Master plan.
Yeah, and then all of it was just to get him on some form of record to admit that he's like, oh, tell him just say you did it. Okay, cool, he did it. All right, cool. I gotta go now. Take a break. And then she's just like dips, and then the full reveal shows up.
But then like the parents were with the girl that was doing the affair.
Yeah, like they were all in. They were all in. They were in on it. But let's get him to set it up because she's cool with like, hey, you know what? I did wrong. She felt bad. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to take time. Like I need to. This is something I need to atone for this. And he obviously him with everything to lose. You start realizing, oh yeah. Like she didn't have kids. She only had like that Bruno was the name of her husband.
Yeah,
he showed up for like one scene and a phone call.
2 scenes. He's taking a random shower and it's just like, okay, like that's it. But this guy is like always there with the kids, with the wife and the big tech company and the deal with Asia. So
expanding market.
Yeah. So there's a whole point where like, it's like
this guy's the year, right?
Businessman of the year according to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not a master planner asesino of the year. That's for sure. What was another thing that I thought...
Anything else you guys maybe picked up on as you were going by? Or maybe
there was one scene when it was still like the first section where it was going by his point of view.
Yeah.
Where they showed... It was like starting to the maybes. This is what I think might happen. And they showed a scene where the father was taking pictures of him and I guess Laura in Paris and was taking pictures of them together. I was like, how did the story get from the father figuring out that he was even involved in this in the first place? So like how would he know?
He never met the husband.
So how would he even know to be across the street taking pictures at that whatever restaurant they were in when they were meeting together? It's like to me when that came up, I was like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, it's like that guy.
It's like because they showed the father going through like articles on his phone, like and he figured out that we were together. I'm like, what? How? Like there was no explanation. Like it doesn't. That part didn't make sense. I was like, and if he's telling that part of the story, then he's just like making a mistake there, like adding like the father knew about me.
And then she's like, how would you have known that? This is your whole your story has 3 holes. If you can answer me these 3 questions, that's it. We're dead.
And so since she of course knows everything because hey, that's my husband, she's like, dude, you're just talking crap because my husband wasn't even there taking pictures of you guys.
Yeah, like you're thinking is like almost to the point where she's like insulted. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like this is hella stupid.
Which is a good way for her to like push him because
she knows everything because Laura told him everything.
Correct.
Yeah, like it's just like Tomas and his wife they ended up being reached out to by Laura, so that was the whole idea of like, yeah, we're gonna set this up, and that's why because now it turned out like wrong because Adrian ended up taking that stone thing and killing Laura in that weird fit, because now the real story is like, oh wait, now you're trapped in the room and what are you gonna do? Like, because people are knocking, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta make it look like I got attacked." So, like, and then because he can't get out, and then be like, "There was an invisible guest in the room," but nope, he was trying to make up BS.
Like when you were talking about that, like, how does he know? They did mention like, oh, like they got the tag from the car, and it was rented out from like him, but. Then you start thinking about it, and you're like, well, wait.
How would you come up with that?
4 leaps of like, coincidence. I was like, there's no way that's gonna hold up. Yeah, like there was no way. But
and then when the dad visits him at like this
at the event. Mind games. I knew it. I watched that scene. I was like, mind games.
That rattled him the whole time.
Yeah, he's just there just to freak him out.
And then he shows him the lighter.
He shows him his lighter. And then he throws it in the water to be like, okay, is he in the water? He's like, looked, he's like, oh, good, so he is in the water. Like that's it. Like he's there somewhere, dude. That was
a good like.
That made me think of like, okay, I know he's a mechanic and an engineer, so like he's able to piece some stuff together. But that was hella mind game like so potential. Like that dude just looked at him. He's like, okay, yeah. Now I'm gonna blow up and be mad.
And the transition to the shot of him pushing the car.
That was hot. That was a good transition too. Like the water when the lighter. Sorry.
When he throws the lighter into the like the little pond in the hotel or whatever the building, and it transitions into the car being pushed into the lake.
Yeah, that was kind of yeah.
So the place where he was saying the car was, it wasn't where the accident happened, right?
No, that's where he dumped the car.
Yeah, but they made it seem like it was still where the accident happened. I'm like, there's no way. He said he was driving for hours.
No, he drove off for a bit. He was
driving for hours.
Yeah, and then he like knows like, oh, it must be here.
That's why when he was like, oh, well, the guy that stopped to ask us for help, I think he was there when I pushed the car into the lake. I'm like, why would he be
was
there?
saying that
And that's why I was
the
like,
sound.
unless it was guy just waited there for hours in the same spot where you guys had the accident. I'm like, so if this is a completely different area that you drove hours to, why would that guy be there? Like, it's just like,
That's exactly.
Yeah, it's like, that doesn't make any
He's
sense.
like that guy. He was that guy, not the
wasn't
elk,
the deer,
not the stag that made the noise. And you're just like, oh, it was that guy. Like,
was
he
watching
followed you for 4.5 hours, like just to then find a way to then blackmail you. Like that's a massive stretch.
That's a plot.
The whole movie
your
was
story.
find the plot holes. Yeah, and she says like there's a whole bunch of holes in your story. It's great. Like it was a really cool way to kind of figure out that like, oh man, this is.
But like as you're watching it, you could kind of be like, damn, like okay, like you wouldn't suspect her to be the mom.
That's the one point that I'm kind of like boned. That I kind of mad at myself that I didn't figure out. But like everything else of the whole idea of like, oh, there's holes to the story. This lady's working for the dad. Like, yeah, she's working for the dad because she's working with Tomas because that's Tomas's wife. Ta-da! So that was done really well.
The second time,
and so that scene where they show her outside the building, and he's like taking a picture of her.
Yeah.
Like to us, it's like, oh, he's just taking a picture.
A mental note.
Yeah, but it's like, no, he's taking a picture of like his wife. And I guess I was trying to just like maybe like match to see like how much she looks like the lawyer. Because when we're first seeing that scene, it just makes it seem like the suspicious husband trying to see like who's going up to this building.
Yeah.
To go see this dude.
Speaking of but he's actually pitching her to take a look. He's like, I need to make sure that my wife actually looks like the real Virginia Goodman.
One thing about that scene, kind of like a little thing that I noticed. So when he was taking a picture of the sign, the sign below it said Raquel, which is the name that Laura used as an alias or as like a fake name. I'm sure there's no I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but I thought it was kind of interesting that it said Raquel.
Yeah, like that because that was his initial like because remember that's the whole like in his imagination, Tomas is trying to connect all the dots and like that's Raquel. Because obviously Laura had told Adrian that, I gave him the name of Raquel. So it ends up being, that point of like, I love, basically, long story short, I love movies that reward the viewer for paying attention.
Yeah, like finding those little details or like adding things up as you're watching. And then
the one part I didn't get to was at the end when the lawyer guy goes to pay the witness. Actually, what was... Like, what was the whole thing? Like,
he was going to be the prosecution
by the main character to pay him off because that was the star witness weapon that this guy could say like, yeah, I saw this guy with this lady in that accident, and so he was there. So he would have been the witness to say that he was there.
Yeah, I thought it would have ended up being kind of or like his character being like dismissed in a sense because of like all the different plot twists, and I thought maybe like that would have been a plot twist of some kind.
But she would say that to the main characters that he was already at the courthouse.
Yeah.
To kind of like, I guess, trick him.
To trick him. Be like, oh, you should be at the courthouse.
Like, you know what? We don't have a lot of time.
So that's why that's why
he's like, they're there at the courthouse.
That's why when the guy calls and she picks it up, he's like, oh, I'm here and I'm here with the witness. That guy's just at the airport where the guy works.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why she turned off
the phone because
his phone. Initially, she turned off his cell phone.
She didn't want him to know, like, oh, he's already with him and he's about to give him the bribe money.
Like that they're all good.
Yeah.
Yep. Because if not, then her whole plan would have come together. But they thought of it. The people the master planners end up winning in the day.
Someone thought about turning off the phone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Someone thought exactly. Well, she tried to make amends, but this guy just got in a fit of rage and ego.
She made it out right in time before the actual lawyer.
That was perfect. And he even said it in the beginning of the movie when she first comes. He's like, oh, wow, you're early.
You're early, a couple hours early.
Yeah, he's like, oh, wow, you're kind of early. That's why I'm like, they're throwing him off. This is definitely something that there's a plan.
She's like, yeah, we have like 2 hours.
Yeah, we don't have to do this because there's a special witness.
And then at the end, she's like, oh, I'm going to go on a break. Get a coffee.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and go through the different, or like you could get the story together.
Yeah.
Do you want a coffee?
Like that was very like change of
change the tone. But
and
remember,
tone,
because she was
too.
doing it from the case of like, I'm the prosecution right now. I need to do all this stuff, so I need to know all the facts in order to make all this straight.
So as soon as she found the location of where her son is, then at that point, she was
it's like we're done. We have everything. We have the bug.
And she recorded.
And it was funny that the bug blew up, and so like it, gave him the ink stain. The moment the ink stain, I was like, oh yeah. And I remember going like, that's where the bug is. Like the whole point, I was like, there's a bug here.
Yeah, like once the phone started freaking out with the frequency,
Yeah,
I was like, frequency. I was like,
got bugged.
Yeah, biggity bugged, and then you got. So that's it, and then he meets the real Virginia Goodman, and he has a weird mental breakdown of just like, oh no, like I got played.
Yeah, so I guess her time frame was like she knew when the real one was supposed to get there.
Yeah.
So she's like, this is my time frame. This is when you
gotta go.
You need to tell me the whole story in this amount of time.
Yep.
So that we can hurry up and go to the courthouse.
All planned out.
That's why she was like saying like, oh, like we don't have enough time.
It's easier to plan it when you have a couple people to do it. So like the. Tomas and his wife, they made it happen, with great determination and a sense of justice for their son. But I think overall, Danny, I'll be the first to say it, great selection. This is a really good one. I miss movies like this.
Yeah, these are fun.
Yeah, rewarding you for paying attention is what I like to call
like
it.
a bottle episode, sort of.
It's like a more serious version of like a Knives Out kind of thing, where it's like but not like they're not similar in terms of like maybe structure, but things like when you're paying attention.
Also,
you're trying to solve
it's a murder. Yeah, it's a
also reminds me
of a murder mystery, but it's like some kind of.
It's a type of it is technically a murder mystery.
Involved.
Yeah, it is technically a murder mystery because you're trying to figure out who really did it. But
it reminded me
unintentional.
I don't know if you guys have seen Black Mirror.
Which one?
Season 4. It's the episode's called Crocodile. It's the whole incident with the kid, like the initial accident, like it reminded me of that episode because something similar happens in that episode. But since that show deals with like
memories,
technology in the future,
yeah,
the whole episode is about these people get into an accident and then they try to do what these people did in the movie, pretty much like try to get away with not having to call the cops and deal with it. So they were hiding the car and everything, but in this future, like an insurance agent is looking up information about that case, and they are able to see people's memories. So it's like the two main people are like throughout the whole episode just trying to run away from authorities, because if they get caught, they're just going to see their memories and see like, oh, you were part of that accident.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
So yeah, it was it reminded me of that. I'm like, oh, I've seen part of this story before, just like in it with a different twist. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Season 4, episode 3 of Black Mirror. If you haven't seen it, Black Mirror is a good show.
1, but
it's better after season 1.
Okay.
Just if you didn't like season 1, I'd say it gets better.
Also, reminds me again. This one's not as serious, but still involves a murder. Which is on Apple TV Plus, The After Party.
Yes.
That one's really fun. But definitely when you're trying to look for who did it, when you start looking through and poking holes, you start realizing, oh yeah, there we go. Like it again, it kind of rewards you for doing all this stuff and paying attention like logically. So when you can write them pretty well, you can do that.
When I started watching the movie, I didn't know who it was that got killed at the beginning, like the lady. So I didn't know it was Laura. So I'm like, okay, at some point I'm thinking, okay, maybe Laura was the one that, because I thought maybe it was the
because she did look different.
Yeah, she looked different, which is why I didn't think about it. So I thought, okay, like this Laura girl, she probably killed this woman,
The short hair,
because when he was telling the story.
Also, a callback to The Shining, and I am a fan. Quiet. Fun fact, or not fun fact, but fun little thing. I also like saw that from the very beginning of the movie. I was like, what if she's actually not dead? And then it's like
that was another possibility.
One possibility is like maybe it's all staged and it's all like. But then she would have showed up like.
You go through so many theories as you're watching, and then like you get one other piece of information. You're like, yeah, okay, no,
yeah.
Because at one point I was considering that maybe she wasn't actually dead, because when they're getting to the point where okay, it was Tomas who did it, but when it was showing the side of the story where Adrian was the one that was being like the one that's like, hey, like we need to cover this up, we need to do all this stuff, and the girl being kind of like anxious and scared about it, that she got in on it with the parents, and then they kind of picked her death, so that way frame him for that, but
then you're like, wait, I need the involvement of the police.
Yeah.
I need the involvement of the rest of the hotel staff, and this guy needs to see whether or not she's actually alive or not and dead. Like he would have checked,
and that would have been a little too far-fetched.
Yeah, that would have really killed the movie for me.
But at one point I was like, okay, maybe it was Laura that killed the girl, but that was Laura. So that was like, okay, that's not
Laura Palmer.
I mean, they made her seem in the beginning. They made her seem like super like pushy,
Get a
like
fine cup of coffee.
Watch
Twin Peaks, kids. No.
Like they made Laura seem super pushy and like she's the one that
she's the
like,
crazy one.
Yeah, he's like, oh, she's the crazy bent one because she's like, oh, we're gonna I'm happier. You're happier
she
when you're
goes
with
into
me.
the car and just like drags the body down. And you're like,
homie.
what?
It's like not saying that a woman is incapable of doing that, but like when you start seeing other things in the story, especially how she acted in the house.
Yeah.
After like they just dumped the body, like that's like, oh, okay, like this is definitely not someone who's able to turn it off and on. Like she was definitely obviously like she can't turn off and on a phone. So there's no way she could turn off and on the sociopathic, like I have to dump a body now. So that was a good like initial like, okay, like cool, this is where we're going. All right. Again, that's the theme. We should call this episode Unreliable Narrator en Español.
Español.
With the lisp.
With the lisp, yes.
With the lisp.
But with that, I guess we can go right over into overall ratings. Like if you want to give a 1 to 10 popcorn bowls en español.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'll go with X first.
Me first? Oh, okay. Go right in first. I mean, for being this kind of like Anthony says, like it's an almost bottle episode because you have like flashbacks and other different locations.
You have flashbacks for flashbacks.
Yeah. Yes. You have, and then flashbacks that aren't even real. But true. I think the whole ensemble cast did a really stellar job. So everything from Mario Casas, who's Adrian Doria, the different sides of like what you had to find from Laura she did a really good job. Jose Coronado, who played Tomas Garrido, like he was
the dad
he was really good. Yeah,
he was fierce.
And Anna Wagner, who was playing Virginia Goodman, also Mrs. Garrido. It was really great at being able to turn it off and on, and then like show those little moments of vulnerability of just like, oh wow, you're a monster, is what the the prosecution's gonna tell you. Yeah. I was like, damn woman, you are good at acting. Like, why'd you stop? They might just put it back in there, but those main players, stellar job. I would easily, I think that the director of this film has a couple other films. I don't know if they're in a similar vein, but like. He's good at making these. I think it's Oriol Paulo. Mm-hmm. But I would give this a solid 8 de 10.
Oh. Pretty solid.
Had to.
What about you, Zach?
I'm on the same boat as X. I think an 8 out of 10 is a great score.
The gringo of the group had the same.
Ocho
de 10.
Anthony?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Pretty solid. I think I would give it a 7.5.
7.5. 7.5.
7.5.
Estoy sorprendido.
7.
Yo estoy sorprendido.
Soft or hard?
Duro.
I knew it was coming. Duro. Excelente. Y finalmente, por Danny, you had recommended this. Watching it, maybe
probably a little biased because I saw it twice and I recommended it, but I'll give it 9.
9.
Yeah.
9 de 10. That is very surprising.
I really enjoyed it, and I've seen this movie like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. So I knew like the big reveal at the end, obviously. Like I remember that part. But some of the stuff I forgot about, and it was nice seeing it again and going through those twists again.
Yeah, because it's all in the details.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely enjoyable, even on a second watch.
The the CG and the accident scene was pretty.
Yeah, the accident one was a little
pretty rough.
Woo! And then like this, but I will say the DC deer was a little better. Yeah, the deer was superimposed, and then
when you see the car spin out and hit
in
the
a
tree,
twirly spin, I was like, okay, that's not where the budget went.
It looked like Vin Diesel driving down the stairs on Fast 10.
Oh my God.
That's what it looked
It's
like.
like that's not where the budget went. That's okay. You know, but yeah, like that's really cool. Like this reminds me of if you like a movie kind of like this too, I would look up like Americanized. I think I mentioned it in a previous episode, but watch Basic with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. It's another one where like a DEA agent's trying to figure out like a murder. It's basically a murder mystery on an army training base. And I think it's Army. I don't remember the branch. I'm gonna cheat and look at it right now. Army Rangers. Yeah. Anyway, I'm
gonna change mine to an Ocho.
Good job. ESPN
Ocho
8.
Cinco. ESPN 8, the Ocho.
The Ocho. Oh man, very nice. With that,
a hard 7.5 is an Ocho.
With that, I'd like to remind everybody who has, hopefully if you did watch the movie and you're listening to our episode talking about it, if you watched all of this and you just love being spoiled, especially on mystery thrillers, I mean, we should have mentioned it earlier in the episode before we went out and talked about it, but
we did though.
We mentioned where you can watch it. But
nowhere.
It's rentable, digitally rentable.
Yeah, just rent it or
if you want to buy it. Look, I rented it. It was a easy $4 to spend. Like that was really good.
Me too.
It was a good movie. Like I recommend. That was really good.
Yeah, I got it off YouTube. They have the English subtitles, so
nice.
pretty cool.
Pretty good. For all you.
Bob Odenkirk.
No, you Curb Your Enthusiasm fans. Come on, man. You don't even know about Curb. Kid doesn't know about.
I don't know. I've heard Bob Odenkirk say that before. Pretty cool, but
it's a.
Forget what I said.
A Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's a Larry David.
Do the rewind sound
It's a Larry David thing. So you should just be like me. Get sick for 2 weeks. Get sick for 2 weeks and watch all of Curb while you're recovering. That was amazing.
It's uncultured. Yeah. I am.
All right. So, what's our next movie?
Ooh, next movie is gonna be a fun one, everybody. So if you're listening to this, next week we are going to go into and across the Spider-Verse. So all the comic book fans that listen to us, you'll be excited to hear our takes on it. We're extremely excited for this movie. I mean, I'm going to be watching it at least twice because I know there's a lot of artistical details and flair that they like to put into this.
I'm already going to watch it twice.
Very good, my man. Excellent. I'm going to do it too. Anthony's probably going to watch it 8 times.
I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of stuff that you got to look at multiple times, like Easter eggs.
I mean, you have to buy the movie and then just frame by
pause.
frame.
Yeah,
frame by frame.
Hey, it's a 2-hour movie. You watch it in 5 hours because you're pausing everywhere and watching all that stuff.
We'll try to rewatch the first one beforehand, but I'm definitely excited. So
indeed, everybody. With that, gracias for listening today. And if you guys like the fact that we dove into a little more foreign films, I'm totally down. We are, I think, all totally down to do it. I know I have a couple of the Nordic noir films that I think I could recommend to you guys, as well as some other good films and TV shows that are out from Asia, maybe Korean or Japanese.
Like Parasite.
Like Parasite, yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have a foreign one in mind.
I mean, we talked about Drive My Car, which is insanely really good.
Yeah.
It's long, but it's really good.
That I have not seen.
Japanese movie. Yeah, you also have not seen it. It was Oscar season and you didn't jump on it. That's okay.
I didn't see it either.
I did. And I think Danny and I, we watched it. We were like, wow, this is really good. But yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll be swinging along with that episode very soon. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Always reach out and interact, discuss, and and share your thoughts with us through our social media pages, through Popcorn Watchlist on Twitter, Popcorn Watchlist on Instagram. We post a lot of fun polls, movie emojis to kind of keep you going through the day while you're scrolling and hopefully not doom scrolling through everything else. So thank you again, everybody. And until then, we will see you next time.
Later.
Later.
Adios.